Hello, greetings, and welcome to another update overview video for Morrowind Rebirth, one of the largest and most popular mods for Morrowind. This time around, we're covering the features, changes, and updates made in 5.6. Transmaster has, as always, included quite a bit in this update, with changes big and small, minor and major. From updated town and city layouts to landscape changes, dungeon overhauls, gameplay changes, and new graphical additions. There's a ton to unpack here, and for the most part, we'll be focusing on the key major changes that Rebirth makes in 5.6. As a note, while this update does include a number of bug fixes, we'll be skipping those in this video, and for more information on just, what all Rebirth fixes in 5.6, check out the link to the ModDB changelog just down in the video description. And while you're down there, you'll also find down links for Morrowind Rebirth, as well as timestamps for just each part of this video. One last thing before we begin, where appropriate, we'll be including comparison footage of Morrowind Rebirth 5.5, so you can see just how things used to look and how they've changed in Rebirth 5.6. We'll typically show the before footage first, followed by, what it looks like now in 5.6. But with that out of the way, let's begin by highlighting the biggest visual changes in 5.6, the updates to towns and cities, starting with Ald'Ruhn. Rebirth 5.6 makes two big, notable changes to the city layout of Ald'Ruhn, starting with the entrance. As you can see here, in Rebirth 5.5, there's no direct road or path that goes from the Siltstrider port to the nearby taverns and council club. Instead, there's only a dead end, similar to how it was in the vanilla game. You can see also the player home that Rebirth adds to Ald'Ruhn, just there in the back, kinda just disconnected from the rest of the city. And now, here's what this area looks like with 5.6. Right away, you can see the council club has been repositioned, and a proper road now actually connects to the Siltstrider port, including some more detailing and cluttering along the street. There's also a new road providing direct access to the player home in Ald'Ruhn, actually connecting it with the rest of the city, instead of being a stationary hovel just, in the background. The other big update for Ald'Ruhn in 5.6 is an updated layout for the residential neighborhood by the temple. Here you can see what the area looks like in 5.5, basically unchanged from the vanilla game. And here's that same area in 5.6. This neighborhood has been reworked to feel like a more just natural extension of the city, with homes being moved to occupy both sides of the road, and a new set of steps leading in to the back entrance of the temple courtyard. Again, there's been some more cluttering and detailing added in here, and personally, I must say, I really like the changes made here in 5.6. They make Ald'Ruhn feel like a more practical and functional lived-in city with at least a semblance of city planning. Moving on though, perhaps the biggest change, at least in terms of towns and cities in Rebirth 5.6, is Dagon Fel. And real quick, here you can see how Dagon Fel used to look in Rebirth 5.5. For the most part, the docks are largely the same as the vanilla game, and so too is most of the city's layout. Only a minor dock extension has been added, and the thatched tower has been replaced with a half tower instead, but otherwise it's fairly close to vanilla. And now, here you can see Dagon Fel in Rebirth 5.6. Right away, you'll notice quite a few changes that Rebirth has made to this version of the city, with a completely reworked set of docks, adding a nice little curve that matches with the sea. The original thatched tower is back, and a number of shacks have been moved around or just replaced entirely with common Nordic architecture, better reflecting the city's mix of Nords and Dwemer. Once again, there's been some new minor detailing and cluttering added in here and there, particularly around the docks and ships, but the other big addition here is, of course, the new alchemy shop by the waterfront. Going inside, you can see it has a fairly basic layout with a merchant that sells a variety of brews that might just be a bit useful if you're heading out into the wilds of the Sheogorad. Finally, there's just one last minor city change that Rebirth makes in this update, at least in terms of exteriors, this time with the city of Ebonheart. Now, just keep your eye on the market stands in the before footage here. These are really the only major things to get a visual overhaul in 5.6, at least in terms of Ebonheart. Now, here's the updated version. The market stalls have been given a bit more variety. Instead of all being large stands just full of goods, some are small, and at least one has been pushed back a bit against the Imperial walls. There's also been a bit of clutter added in here and there, but, nothing too major. One last thing to note here, one of the previously vacant interiors in Ebonheart, the former vacant house that you can see from Rebirth 5.5, has been replaced in this update. Now, in 5.6, this is an actual, proper NPC home, just fully finished and cluttered, with all the cozy little amenities of a home that's actually been lived in, and not just some empty shell awaiting some theoretical future resident. This is a two-story abode with a locked upper level that you could potentially break into for just thieving-related reasons. Now, while that's the last of the big exterior city changes, there are a few more updated interiors from other towns and villages that, I'd like to point out here. Notably, Rebirth 5.6 updates some of the shack interiors for Hla Oad, a before screenshot of which you can see here. And here is the updated interior in 5.6. The changes include some updated finishings with a new shelf and rugs, as well as some new clutter to give the shack a more lived-in feel. In total, 3 shacks have been updated in this manner, and you can see just another before screenshot here, and of course the updated interior counterpart here. This one isn't quite so obvious, but there's been a little bit of additional miscellaneous clutter just strewn about. Moving on, 5.6 updates a couple of the interiors in Vivec, including the shop, Bernadette's Imports, and you can see how it used to look in 5.5 with the screenshot here. Quite a bit has been changed in the 5.6 update, with everything from the type of shelves to the goods on display getting just a bit of a makeover, as well as a new hutch being thrown in behind the counter. The overall effect here is to make the shop feel just a bit more like an Imperial rather than a Dunmeri shop by using more, Imperial furnishings. Lastly, there's also been a set of changes made to Mayan Guy's Enchanter shop in the Foreign Quarter, namely with some changes made to the actual, front shop area. 5.6 includes new furnishings, some potted plants, more enchanted goods on display, instead of just, the measly fare that was there before, and also does just a slight makeover of the bedroom, with some additional clutter just here and there. But that's the last of the city updates. Next, let's take a look at landscapes. And the biggest change here is with the Sheogorad region. You can see a before image from 5.5 here. And now you can see that same area in 5.6. This update includes an all-new, unique appearance for the giant mushroom emperor parasols of the Sheogorad and Upper Azurian coast regions. These can now only be found in Vvardenfell's northern climates, and given the number of these giant emperor parasols in the Sheogorad region, this really does just quite a bit to just change how the Sheogorad region itself looks, giving it a more unique and, I think, a rather just a more distinct feeling. But on the complete opposite end of the island, you'll find that 5.6 also includes an overhaul for Mount Assarnibibi in the Malagama region, giving it a more, just a more mountainous appearance. No before image for this one, as the change is fairly obvious. These mountain peaks are added in 5.6, so Mount Assarnibibi does actually look like a mountain instead of just, another rounded grey hill in this volcanic wasteland. Next up, we have Dungeon Overhauls, and Rebirth 5.6 does include a few major changes for, notably, Dwemer ruins, particularly overhauling their exteriors. And here you can see the Dwemer ruin of Arkanthan from 5.5. Aside from some towers and statues, it's pretty much the same as it was in the vanilla game. And now we have Rebirth 5.6. Right away, you'll see a lot of visual updates made to the exterior, with a ton of new assets to give these Dwemer ruins just a more sort of underground fortress or bunker feel, with large, battle-worn, and damaged emplacements. The nearby Dwemer Bridge going to Fort Moonmoth has also been overhauled, with new exterior lighting and arches to give the bridge just a more distinct look. This update hasn't been limited to just Arkanthan though. 5.6 has also begun making changes to the exteriors of most of the Dwemer ruins on Vvardenfell, with the changes ranging from the more obvious, like this ruin in the West Gash, to just a couple of new assets added to some of the ruins in the Malagama region. Going into the future, the plan is to eventually just rework all the exteriors for the Dwemer ruins to include these new assets. So that's something to look forward to. But anyway, on the interior side of things, the Dwemer ruin of Bythusel has been given a unique set of minecarts and tracks, with a decidedly more Dwemer look and feel to them. Previously, they had been using retextured vanilla mining carts and tracks, which looked a little out of place in a more advanced industrial setting like, Dwemer ruins. Also, as of 5.6, every Dwemer interior now has animated ceiling fans, as you can see here, just to add a bit more cosmetic detailing to the interiors. Now there's just one last, though incredibly minor thing to mention with regards to dungeons in 5.6, and that involves a very, very minor change with the Daedric shrines and ruins. Previously, in the vanilla game, you could find a number of basically common lamps in Daedric dungeons, usually lighting up various corners. These have now been replaced in 5.6 with Daedric-looking lamps, which are really basically like mini braziers, but regardless, they do fit the Daedric environment just a lot better than the old vanilla candle lamps that were there before. Moving on to new item additions, Morrowind Rebirth 5.6 includes just a ton of new armor pieces, such as the boiled Netch Leather Shield, which I believe now pretty much completes that armor set, and new weapons like the Steel Rapier that you can see here. There's also been new additions to the Cephalopod armor set, and real quick, here's a comparison image from Rebirth 5.5. Not only has this armor set been completed, with a new set of boots and greaves added in Rebirth 5.6, but this update also graphically improves the Cephalopod armor, giving it a better, more high-resolution look, and of course, the Telvanni guards in Saraf Mora and of course the other Telvanni towns will be wearing the full set of armor here. And just real quick, you can also see another new weapon, the Silver Throwing Knife, just here as well. A bit of a minor addition, but Rebirth 5.6 also adds in a new set of ebony gauntlets to the game. So you can now choose between having the ebony braces, like in the vanilla game, and ebony gauntlets, which you know, I think actually look a bit more stylish, but, you know, that's just me. Anyway, checking out 2 final armor additions here. Rebirth 5.6 adds Nordic Iron Pauldrons and Nordic Iron Bracers to the game. Coming close to, but still falling just a bit short of completing the Nordic Iron armor set. It's still missing greaves and boots, I believe. You can also see a new weapon here, the Iron Rapier, which is a bit stylistically similar to the Iron Saber. Finally, in terms of new items, Rebirth 5.6 adds Golden Saint and Silver Saint swords, carried respectively, of course, by Golden and Silver Saints. In addition, the Silver Saint shield, seen here, has been given a new model and texture, just, you know, giving it an improved appearance. Now, Rebirth 5.6 makes quite a few new graphical improvements over previous iterations of Rebirth, including, per the release notes, tons of UV fixes for ground and terrain meshes, but we're mostly going to be focusing on the items, weapons, and armor that Rebirth 5.6 has improved in this latest update. And here you can see most of the items that Rebirth either provides new textures, models, or icons for, including new models for the Daedric dagger, the Daedric longsword, several artifacts like the Minta's ring, and Urudan's spear. There's new meshes for the exquisite rings and amulet, as well as other unique rings like Azura's ring, Warlock's ring, and Mera's ring. The Sword of White Woe has a new model and texture, as does a Cloud Cleaver and a Shadow String. And all these have new icons, as you can see here. There's quite a bit more that Rebirth 5.6 improves, graphically speaking, but you know, this gives you a taste of what you can expect in this latest update. And taking a look at gameplay changes in the new update here, perhaps the biggest thing that Rebirth 5.6 changes has to deal with merchant vendors and their stock. As of 5.6, the offerings of various merchants, particularly those selling weapons and armor, has been randomized, at least to a degree. Instead of having a large, largely static selection of wares, these merchants will now just have different things to sell on each playthrough. This could even come in the form of new enchanted items to buy, and because this is randomized, even merchants that you're already just intimately familiar with are, worth checking back with every now and then, just to see what new goods they might have. As of 5.6, this mostly just affects weapon and armor merchants, though Transmaster has mentioned plans for expanding this to other types of goods and merchants in future updates, so that's something to keep an eye on. Next, in terms of gameplay, a bit of a minor change, but some plants and flowers will now just give you multiple ingredients instead of just one. This is particularly true for plants like the comberry bushes, stone flowers, and willow flowers, where the ingredients that you gather are berries and flower petals. In the vanilla game, you could only get one berry from a comberry bush and only one flower from a willow flower, despite the fact that there's clearly more than one on any given plant. With 5.6, that is actually now the case, and this will make ingredient harvesting just a bit easier for alchemists. There's a ton of other gameplay improvements in 5.6, from improved path grids to increasing the duration of torches and other light sources that you can carry. But the last thing I wanted to show off here actually has to do with a bit of content that Rebirth adds to the game, specifically the estate agent that sells player homes in Ebonheart. With the 5.6 update, the dialogue here has just been improved so as to let you actually know what properties are available and how much they cost, regardless of how much gold you actually have on you. But anyway, that's pretty much just most of the highlights from Rebirth 5.6. As I mentioned, there's a lot more, but this should just give you an idea of what to expect when checking out the latest update for this just utterly massive mod. Once again, links to the ModDB changelog and downlinks can just be found down below, so, you know. Thanks for watching, and as always, stay safe, stay healthy, happy modding, and I'll see you all next time.